Dan Albers, and welcome to This Week in Anderson on USPN Sports Podcast. And joining me always is my co-host, Steve Ellis. And Steve, very super excited again that we have our podcast is brought to you by Jump. Jim Surger's 7th book is now up for sale with 6 other Anderson Township buddies. Jim tells the true story of what happened to them at the Van Halen concert. The book is available anywhere books are sold or jimsurger.com. Super excited that Jim's doing a sponsor. I just saw Jim was on Channel 5, I think, today, So we really appreciate Jim, and he's been trying to help us get a lot of McNick guys because we haven't had the opportunity to bring them on board. And so speaking of that, I'm super excited to have our next guest, and it's Drew Schmidt. I've known him playing it, not just being the coach at Anderson when he was coaching at Anderson for I think it was a year. I think at Anderson, 2 years at Anderson, and then also his brother was coaching at Anderson for a little bit, but doing some outstanding things at McNick right now.
Well, it's perfect with having Jimmy sponsor, a McNick guy on here.
Right.
But having Drew on here, I mean, I want to say that, with him getting the athletic director's position was absolutely fitting.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't think there's anybody else that had been more fitting, more perfect for the McNick job than Drew, and I'm sure he eats and sleeps it, and that's probably why he wants to go quick so he can go home and get some sleep.
Well, and I was just thinking, he's just reminds me so much of Newt, how Newt is part of he's the Newt of McNick, just at our perspective. So, as we said, joining us is Drew Schmidt. Drew, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This is, I watched this, all of them that you put on here, and I appreciate you guys having me.
Oh, that's awesome, man. We appreciate that. So let's get back to the days growing up. And so a lot of times I'm not familiar how the whole McNick thing works as far as growing up. So did you grow up in Anderson, or did you grow up outside of Anderson?
I did. No, I was in Anderson. I went to Guardian Angels. I actually went to Maddox in kindergarten.
Really?
And then my parents held me back for another year. I grew up playing Forest Hills football, actually. So
really,
my circle was tight with a lot of Anderson and Turpin buddies, and I still see not all of them, but some of them today. And then you run across them. Quick story on that. I know I told you I didn't have too many stories.
No, I would love it. Bring it.
The other day, somebody found a Coach Durger basketball off of 8 Mile in the neighborhood. His name was Bill Smith. He was an Anderson family. He coached my brother Nick in football at Forest Hills.
Really?
The front desk called me and they said, "Hey, Bill Smith's here." And I was like, there's probably a million Bill Smiths in the world.
Common.
And here comes Mr. Bill Smith coming up to my office, knocks on my door, and I was looking at my desk, and he said, "Drew," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I know that voice." And he brought this basketball back that somehow left Coach Durger's house and got out of his house a couple weeks ago and landed in a neighbor's yard at their place.
No kidding.
Oh, wow.
It was his 300th win.
No.
Yeah.
That's so cool that Bill brought that back.
Yep.
I mean, it's really cool that he did that.
We talked for 20-30 minutes about Forest Hills football and the overs and the wetters.
The overs and the
wetters. So where did you grow up at? What neighborhood?
We moved 3 times until I was a senior in high school.
Okay.
But I lived off of Salem in the Hawkstone neighborhood.
That's a big famous. Yeah, sure.
I lived on Seabright in the cul-de-sac.
Okay.
And then we moved to Bruns Lane off of Clough, right past Wolf Angle.
Yeah.
And then when we moved, when I could drive, I'm the youngest of 3, and when I could drive, my parents moved out to Legendary Run.
Okay.
Oh, really?
So they didn't have to drive me to school every day.
Oh, that's right. Perfect. You were on your own. Yeah. All right. So you had mentioned that you played Forest Hills. Was that the youth football? Mm-hmm. So what other sports did you play when you were growing up?
Baseball, basketball, and football.
Okay. So
it's all the biggies.
All the biggies. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about like baseball. Who'd you play for? Anybody local?
District 5, when we were in D5 Knothole, we were the Jets.
Okay.
The Jets.
And Mark Hanahan was our coach. And then when we got to the age of 12, we turned to double ABC.
Okay.
Some of the guys stayed in D5 or stopped playing baseball. And some of us went to the Franklin Savings A's.
Okay.
Which my brother's team, my oldest brother, Zach, my dad coached him for about 6 or 8. Well, my dad coached him all the way up till he was 18.
Okay.
But they became the Franklin Savings A's probably when he was 10 or 11.
Okay.
They played a couple years in Knothole, then double ABC for probably 5 or 6 years. And then when he graduated high school, my dad kind of took over our age, and we became a travel team when I was 12. And I always played a year up.
Okay.
Because of how my birthday.
Yeah.
Okay. So was there some local guys that were on your team?
Mm-hmm. Yep. We probably had 3 or 4 Anderson kids, 3 or 4 Glen Estee kids, Glen Estee at the time.
Okay.
A few McNick kids. Milford. I mean, we were all East Siders.
Is that kind of? I mean, it's basically the same thing as Midland, right? I guess back then, WABC. I mean, is it kind of the same thing?
Yeah.
I mean, I
playing 100 games and
pretty close.
Yeah.
Now it's frowned upon, but we played. We would have Mondays off, and we'd play Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we'd go travel somewhere Friday.
All right. And you played basketball too?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. Was that Kiwanis or was that CYO?
Was CYO. I played for GA.
Okay.
And then I played for a couple of, I guess you could call it AAU, but we'd be in like the Big East League.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
I mean, now CYO is the GCCYS, and the GCCYS is kind of probably for the better, has kind of put a strangle on how many games the youth schools can play.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I remember my 8th grade year, we were like 64 and 14.
Yeah. Yes.
What?
Oh yeah. As opposed to Nagel playing 15 or whatever. Yeah.
We would play. We'd play 6 or 7 games a weekend.
Sure.
Are you kidding?
No.
I didn't know it was that.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Do you remember who your coach was back then?
We had Bernie Wharton in 5th grade.
Was Riesenberg one of them?
Riesenberg coached my brothers.
Okay.
But he stopped.
Oh, did he? Okay.
When we became probably the 4th or 5th grade for me.
Okay.
And then 5th grade, we were the A team. You split up to ABC. Jim Dressler and Paul Farwick.
Okay.
Were my coaches in grade school.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was.
So that was at GA?
That was at GA.
Okay.
Yep. And then I played for Mike Mazzaro.
So
it was the Vikings.
Yeah. And he ran the Eastside Gym.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Which is now
OBC. I don't know what it is now.
Ohio Crossover. Yeah. It's a AAU outfit. Yeah.
Right next to St. Thomas More.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. All right. So then you move on and go from GA, right? You're in GA, and then you went to McNick.
Yep.
And so once you got to be a freshman there, I guess, what sports did you?
I was baseball, basketball, and football my freshman year.
Okay.
I was the JV quarterback my freshman year, backup varsity quarterback, and then after my freshman year, I stopped playing football.
Really?
Okay.
And was just basketball and baseball after that.
Was that because of baseball?
Combination.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
When I was a freshman, we had a good freshman quarterback as well.
Okay.
And I moved up to JV, and kind of the next year, it was like, hey, you're going to split some time.
Yeah.
I was like, well, can I move to wide receiver?
Yeah.
Coaches were like, nope, you're going to split time.
Oh, no. Yeah, you just want to stay on the field.
Yeah, I had 3 meetings with him. I was like, well, what if I beat him out? Can you move to a different position on the field? And I think coach was challenging me at that time.
Right. Who was the coach?
It was Rodenberg, John Rodenberg.
So, wow. So how does the numbers compare now to when you were there?
Enrollment wise?
Well, team wise.
Number of teams.
No. Players on the team.
Players on the team.
Yeah. Sorry.
We have 85 in the program right now, between 85 and 95, I believe. I get mixed up with the numbers going into next year, and but we probably had from sophomore to seniors we had 60.
Yeah, I was gonna say
65.
It was never like, from what I remember, just when it wasn't as big as it is. I think you're now. I know your numbers were down for a little bit, but the numbers seem to be up higher the last few years.
Is
that
good?
Yeah. I mean, we had 52. to start the season, we had 52 freshmen playing football this year.
Oh my goodness!
Wow.
Yeah,
That's a huge number.
Yeah.
It was really cool to see.
Absolutely.
I mean, you look over on the
Did you have enough
sideline
equipment for
from
that?
the 25 to the 25.
I mean, that's got to be like one of the most ever, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
One of the bigger ones.
I can pretty much go on record and say that's the biggest freshman football team.
Holy
I was going to say.
So
that's a huge. I mean, that's 2 classes at Anderson almost. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
I mean, Anderson maybe gets 25, 30 kids.
I was gonna say, there's no way Anderson has that.
No way.
yeah, we have. If we progress the way we've been progressing the last 3 years, we will have probably 115 players in the football program.
So when you move
in the
up,
next
then
2 years,
will you move up division? Because of that,
I think it's inevitable.
Yeah, and what are you now again? I forget what
We're
are they?
4.
4. So they move up to 3. Wow.
Yeah, and we're pressing. I mean, we're probably one of the top 20 D4 enrollment wise.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
if we have another solid freshman class coming in next year, we'll be
bumped up.
I'm pretty sure we'll be D3.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. All right. And so, and you talked about you have, how many brothers do you have?
I have 2 older brothers.
2 older brothers.
Zach and Nick.
Is Nick the one that's the closer in age to you?
Yes. Yep.
Did you play with him at all?
I did not. So he graduated McNick, and then I came in. So he was a senior, and I was an 8th grader.
Okay.
Yep.
I got you.
So
sorry, I didn't know.
Played with all his buddies though.
That's right.
Yeah.
All the ones younger than that. Yeah. Go ahead, Danny.
So I was, just let's get one of the guys that I know you're probably familiar with is Evan Dreyer, coaching at Anderson High School. Was he was older than you, obviously, I think, right? Is that correct? Or
Yep.
was he?
He was a senior when I was a freshman.
So talk a little bit about Coach Evan Dreyer at McNick. Played quarterback, I do believe, right? Did he play quarterback or try to play
Started as quarterback, and then he was wide receiver.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, he. So Eddie is Evan's older brother, and my brother Zach played on the same base. Eddie was a year older than my brother Zach.
Okay.
So our family, at McNick, our families became friends.
Sure.
Evan's same old Evan.
Yeah. He's doing a great job. And then I remember when I was broadcasting Mount St. Joe football games, I think Evan was there when Vince Soriano was there.
As a player?
He was as a player. He wasn't there long.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was a player just maybe a couple years, maybe that, if that. And that's how he got the relationship with Vince, was through Mount St. Joe, is how it kind of started.
Okay, I didn't know that.
So yeah, that was kind of the thing that going on. But yeah, it's just the whole dynamic, how the whole then you come on to coach baseball at Anderson. So we're getting these McNick guys coming over to the Anderson side. It's like, man, this is kind of crazy. So, but
funny story with Evan.
Yeah,
don't mean to interrupt you.
That's all right.
My freshman year, we were scrimmaging Winton Woods, and I went in with the varsity reps. Zach Denton was our starting quarterback.
Yeah, I remember Zach Denton. Yeah.
Not a chance in the world I was going to beat him out, but Rodenberg threw me in, obviously, to backup quarterback.
Right.
Yeah,
might get some playing time down the road if something happens. And I roll out. I remember the play. It was China rolling out to the right, and Evan's actually on the backside on a post, and I'm 60 yards away from him. He's wide open. And I turned to throw the ball backside all the way across the field. I had to throw it further across the field than down the field.
Yeah.
And it got picked off for 6. And I was on Winton Woods' sideline, and I had to jog all the way over to the McNick sideline. And for that 40 yards across the field, John Rodenberg's in my ear.
Yeah, of course.
Just ripping me. And I go back and I stand in front of Jeff Haynes and behind Evan Dreyer.
Yeah.
And they're both, Rodenberg's still in my ear, the first time I've ever had that type of humiliation.
Right.
I never threw backside ever again.
Lesson learned.
Evan's in front of me and Jeff Haynes is behind me, and they're both like tapping me in the belly and hitting my head. And I'm sitting there like,
oh God.
And they're
just take it in.
And they walk away, or Coach Rodenberg walks away, and I don't remember what they said.
That's funny.
I just remember being sandwiched in between the two seniors. Like, holy smokes, here we go.
Yeah.
I've seen Coach Dreyer turn on a Rodenberg moment a couple times this year with some of his players. I've seen it a couple times, so he'll get a little fired up every once in a while.
Yeah, he does.
That's funny. All right, so let's. No, go ahead, Danny. I jumped ahead there.
Yeah, I typically interrupt you anyways.
My bad.
So Steve and I have been a part of these, Anderson, Turpin, Anderson, McNick kind of rivalries, and in our perspective, we know what it's like, but we don't know. Everybody knows because we're the Anderson guys. But talk a little bit on your side of it, the perspective of playing those, Turpin and Anderson games, and what it was like for you guys at McNick.
I've actually had a unique perspective of it. I actually, before I came over to Anderson, I was a Turpin basketball coach for 4 years, and I coached 1 year of football with Coach Stoll.
Oh, wow.
From 2010 to 14. And then, so I have that perspective, but the basketball perspective is actually incredible.
Right.
At McNick, and I'm not, we grew up at McNick, in basketball.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Winning against both teams.
Yep.
And you're like, huge games, house is packed, the walls bleeding of condensation down. It's so crowded, and McNick's air wasn't the best back then.
So those were before the big ass fans.
Yes.
Put in.
Well, now we have air conditioning.
Oh, okay.
We're good. We're temperature controlled. It's great. But growing up in those games with McNick versus Turpin, McNick versus Anderson, those were circled on the schedule, obviously.
Yeah.
But when I became a coach at Turpin, I kind of downplayed it, being a McNick guy.
Sure.
We're the basketball school.
Right.
On the east side, blah, blah, blah. That first game that we coached, I was the freshman coach under Brad Cupido. And we went over to Anderson, and from the tip-off, you could feel Anderson's floor.
Oh, yeah.
And we were just bobbing up and down, and I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
This is cool. So seeing it from that perspective after growing up completely on the other side of both of those perspectives, it was awesome.
Well, what was a bigger rival, though? Like from McNick when you were there as a player, was it which one, I think, mattered more to you?
Between the two of them?
Yeah, beating Turpin or
beating Anderson.
That was the main one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think more friends went to Anderson.
Okay. You knew more guys from there.
More guys from there, but if you want to be the best around here, you got to beat the best. And at that time growing up, Anderson was always knocking on that door of, hey, we need to figure out how to get them.
Right. Yeah.
And those games, though, even back in the early '80s, man, they were just so packed at both gyms.
It's just so hot.
People sitting in the front at Anderson, you couldn't even move. It was hotter than blazes in both gyms, but that was the excitement. It was just cool to be at those games. And back as a player, I know for us was awesome. I think we equally got excited for both. Turpin was obviously, I think, an overall, but when we played McNick, we wanted, because they always beat it. Don't you think it was a different?
It was so much harder to win there. For lots of reasons.
And I'll be honest, I hated Durger.
Well,
but Durger was awesome. He was
every
awesome.
opponent
hated him, but he was
players.
It was just he was a great coach.
To play for him,
he was just a great coach, and that made it a nice rivalry too, is because of Durger.
And I've said this a million times. When we played, when we were playing against McNick and Durger's yelling, and I'm like intimidated, and I don't even have a McNick uniform on. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah. There's so I was the water boy for probably 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
For Durger in basketball.
Okay.
My freshman year was the year that he was let go by McNick.
Oh, really?
I remember him calling all of us into the gym. He couldn't speak. It was it was gut wrenching. But the perception of how tough he coaches and coached all of us compared to who he is it's completely different. But
everybody
being
says
the water,
that. I know.
Being the water boy, I might have heard a cuss word or two in the 5 years I was the water.
Is that right?
Yeah. He wasn't. He was gentle. He was.
Yeah.
We've always heard
he was
that.
demanding and accountable.
Demanding.
And
exactly.
He wasn't. It was a very. it was tough.
Well, I would imagine as a player for Duggar, and we don't have to get too far in this, but that you were not just respected and intimidated by him at all the same time, but you didn't want to disappoint him.
Right. Yeah.
And especially by what you're saying, you know, what he is off the court.
Right.
You know, I mean, he's definitely didn't want to disappoint him.
Yeah, definitely an intimidating figure for me too, man. I didn't play much, so I just got to watch. I just got to sit down and look down at the end of the bench and watch, you know.
All right, so let's get into your high school career, Drew, and talk about. You know, we talked about what sports you played, and then once you got to your senior year, you know, were you honing in on one sport? What did you end up doing? Where'd you go?
I still played basketball and baseball all the way through. All right. And I was fortunate enough to be seen, and I was able to play at Xavier for baseball.
Great.
I was a multi-sport athlete. So my dad, in the middle of my sophomore year, I was taking basketball more seriously than baseball.
Okay.
And I remember sitting in my dad's den at our house in the Legendary Run area, and he said, "Drew," he said, "look at your mom and look at me." Yeah. And he said, "You're almost done growing." And I said,
"Well, that is honest as it gets."
Yeah. And I sat there and I was like, "Yeah." And he said, "And quite frankly, you're about a half a step to 3/4 of a step slower than everybody else in your position on the basketball court."
Okay.
And he said, "So you have one option if you want to keep doing something after these next 3 years."
Okay.
And he said, "I'd suggest you start focusing a little bit more on baseball.
Focus on that curveball."
Wow. Yeah. And we had a batting cage in my basement when we lived out there. Nice. So I'd go to basketball practice and come home and hit. My brothers would front toss and soft toss with me in the basement. And
okay.
God, that's awesome.
It was, you know.
Who was your baseball coach at McNick?
Willie Corbett.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
The legend Fossil.
Yeah.
Coach Fossil.
Right. Were you part of the state championship?
I was not. I was actually the bat boy on the state championship.
Oh, were you?
But yeah.
That was before that.
Danny O'Brien and myself, or Pat O'Brien's little brother, we were the bat boys, and we'll take credit for that state.
That's right. That's right.
It was 5-1, and they couldn't hit, and we were waking the bats up in the 6th and 7th grade.
Look at that.
That's perfect. That's perfect. All right, so you went to Xavier. How was that experience?
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Difficult, a hard adjustment. I actually remember my freshman year, the day I came home from exams, or the day the season ended, we lost to Richmond my freshman year at Dayton Dragon Stadium. Mm-hmm. Next day I came home, laying on my mom and dad's bed, and I was like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, Mom. Oof. And she just kind of looked me in the eyes and said, "You're tougher than that." And
God, I love your mom.
You got a long life ahead of you. You don't want to stop doing it right now.
Yeah.
So I remember that. It was a good 15-20 minute talk, and it was kind of the first time. I mean, my mom was awesome. Salt of the earth.
Yeah.
Hardest worker in our family. You know, she worked from sun up to sundown to allow us to do what we did. But
sure,
you know, she just looked at me and she said, "Don't stop."
God, that's awesome.
And I didn't.
Yeah.
Thank God we had that talk.
Yeah.
It was very uncomfortable. It was the first time we had something like that, but it was awesome.
So you had a good career? Did you?
I did, I think.
Okay.
I mean, I started all 4 years. My freshman year, I started at third base.
Great.
That was an adjustment. You want to talk about scared every single pitch?
Oh my gosh.
Sure, yeah.
I can only imagine.
I mean, I'm a 5'10", 170-pound third baseman, probably the smallest in Division I.
Yeah.
And you're facing some big donkeys. And coach tells you to scoot up, and you're like, "Jeez, no." I remember at Western Carolina, that was my first start. It was the second or third weekend of the season, and their player of the year in the conference the previous season hit a rocket down the third base line. Yeah. And I somehow stopped it, and I think my hand still hurts today.
It still says wrong.
Yeah. I had knocked it down and threw him out, and I was like, if this is going to be like this the whole year, this is going to be awful. Yeah. And then I got pinch hit for in the 4th inning. with bases loaded.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
So,
All right.
So did you always stay at third, or did you?
I moved over to second base the next 3 years.
Oh, did you?
Okay, good. Sounds like a nice, fun career you had there.
Yeah, it was awesome. I'd love to do it over again.
So who was the coach at Xavier at that
It was
time?
Scott Guggens.
And he was the one that was at
Yeah, he
UC
went
for a
to
little
With
bit.
UC, yeah, that's right. So at what point did you know, I mean, between your older brothers and your mom and your dad, that you were going to get to a point to transition into coaching?
Really early on, I would say. Earlier than Xavier, earlier than kind of high school. My dad coached us. He would go to work from 2:30 in the morning to 3:30 in the afternoon so he could come and coach us every day.
Wow.
And that was kind of my mom and my dad's plan. Hey,
Right.
you know, I'll work sun up to sundown. I'll take them to school. I'll get them off onto the bus.
Yeah.
You'll get them after school and be their coach.
Wow.
Teamwork.
And, yep.
Yeah.
It was... I just saw the joy that my dad had. And
Okay.
the structure and the discipline and the accountability that, you know, we kind of lived our life growing up that way. And
Yeah. So when you got the Anderson job, was that your first head coaching job?
actually, I'm a dancer. I've been to a lot of places.
Okay.
So in 2010, April of 2010, Brad Cupido got the job at Turpin.
Right.
And he called me and he said, hey, I need a freshman coach and I want you to be freshman JV varsity. You know, help me with everything.
Yep.
And I got a job for you too if you want it out of college. And I was like, yeah, great.
Okay.
So I worked from Brad Cupido's house and I coached with Brad Cupido for a year and a half. He moved on to Chicago.
Chicago, right.
Yep.
Yep.
Just to work for Omnicare in sales. And, excuse me. So he left, Stricker came over to coach basketball. I moved up to the varsity assistant coach. And then I kind of got that itch of like, hey, do you want to do baseball? You know, I wanted to be a varsity head coach as quickly as I could.
Okay.
You know, hot-headed, I don't know what it was, you know.
Yeah.
But I wanted to be a varsity head coach.
Yeah.
I had written a paper my freshman year of high school that I wanted to be McNick's athletic director. Or,
No way.
Or play or two things, or play professional baseball.
Okay.
And, you know, that talk I had with my dad when I was a sophomore, hey,
Yeah.
you're smaller than everybody else.
Yeah, yeah.
You're half a step too slow. You know, the reality of it is that it's going to stop one day. So
Right.
you have to do something else. So my plan was kind of to be in the seat I'm in today. So I wanted to figure out how to get as much experience for that as I could because I wasn't a teacher. I didn't go to school to be a teacher. So
Okay.
that path was not going to be the path I was going to take. I had to make up for it somewhere else. And
Okay.
that was trying to get as much experience as I could coaching.
Right.
So probably being a head coach gives you a little bit more experience on your resume to be an athletic director than, you know, being a freshman coach or an assistant coach, you know, getting all of those different positions to help. And I think football, basketball, and baseball help that, and having that perspective of, you know, being an assistant, being a head coach. And then ultimately, I actually volunteered my time at Covcath.
I was going to say, so that was, you went from Anderson to Covcath, right?
Yep. So I had told, you know, I talked to Newt. Newt and I were really cool.
Right.
Actually, him and Tony Hemmelgarn, I kind of based my approaches.
Right.
Couple of each things from both of them.
Sure.
On how I approach my job now. I'd call them mentors. I appreciate everything they've done for me. But I told Newt, I said, hey, I want to be McNick's athletic director. So my next move after being Anderson's baseball coach is what's going to help me get that experience to be able to put that on my resume. And Tony Bacigalupo over at Covcath actually coached with us at Turpin. He was the assistant coach under Brad Cupido our first year.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So I called him and I said, hey, I had been working for my dad at our family's insurance agency, and my dad kind of knew the path I wanted to go on, and he was very, you know, cooperative and accommodating to that. So thanks, Dad. So I called Tony Bacigalupo and I said, hey, I have all of these experiences. I will clean your toilets, I'll clean the hallways, I'll do whatever I need to do. Can I have the assistant AD title? And I can do whatever you want me to. I'll kind of wipe your butt. Clean the toilets, and I'll do it for free. And I was there for almost 2 full school years.
Okay.
And then McNick's baseball job opened up, so I applied for that and got that. I'm actually the only baseball coach in McNick's history to never lose, but I never won a game because it was that quick. The COVID year.
Oh wow,
yeah,
that's funny.
The head coach for about 3.5 weeks.
That's funny.
Yeah.
And then the AD.
And that spring, Rob Heiss had retired.
Did you kind of know that Rob was going to be retired? I mean, did you kind of, because you're tied in with all the McNick people, did you kind of know that, or?
Rob didn't show any cards. And I mean, just age-wise and how long he had been at McNick, I kind of figured, it was within the next few years.
Yeah.
And that spring, I think it was a shock to everybody that he put in
but you were just
retire.
Like,
and I was like,
exactly how I planned it.
Well, not quite. I was a little nervous. You never know still.
Right.
I knew I was more prepared than anybody in the world to have that job.
Yeah.
But because I wrote a 25-page plan on what I wanted to do to be McNick's AD.
You were ready.
Not an AD at Turpin, not an AD at Anderson, not an AD at West Claremont, an AD at McNick. Yeah. And I thought I was well prepared.
Well, and as I said in the beginning, that's completely fitting. That's who you are.
Yeah.
I think you were meant to be that.
Right. I appreciate that. It started with my back to the question of what made you want to get into coaching.
Yeah.
My mom was a cheerleading coach at McNick. Okay. She used to tote me in the pumpkin seat, and my brother's up there, with the Kurt Kiesling and the Pat Strickers.
Kurt Kiesling.
Yeah.
So my brothers grew up like admiring those guys.
Sure.
And then
they were pretty good too.
When I was after that era, so I was born in '87, but my mom was still the coach, and she was toting me up there. And then my dad was a football coach under Rodenberg, baseball coach under Willie Corbett.
Wow.
So the '90s, McNick was basically our second home.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's pretty good genes there, though.
Yeah.
From mom and dad.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then obviously, walking. It really shows, and you're probably a prime example having 2 older brothers. You not only was going to your parents' events, but I'm sure you went to your brother's events.
Well, I was the ball boy, water boy.
Yeah.
You
leared all that. You were ahead of
the only thing I wanted to do was hang out with my brother and my brothers and their friends.
Yeah.
Wow. I couldn't wait to get to school at GA so that I could go across the street to get to McNick after school. Yeah. And we walked across the street.
You can see it. Yep.
Just hung out.
That's incredible.
So I want to ask you a question about Coach Durger, because obviously we've already talked about what a legendary figure he is, and I know that recently that the court was named after him, and rightfully so, and so glad that all the passes in the past and the bygones and stuff like that. How did that all come about, and what was your involvement in? Because I think there's no fitting person that says McNick about basketball, obviously, than Durger.
Yeah, when you think of McNick,
right,
you don't even have to say basketball, and 90% of Cincinnati thinks about Durger.
Right.
When McNick and Durger are synonymous.
Yeah, correct.
He was an unbelievable basketball coach, but the impact he had as a school counselor was probably even bigger than what he did as a basketball player.
I've heard that numerous people.
Non-basketball players are all, everybody remembers his songs that he sang in the cafeteria.
Oh yeah, the birthdays and
he couldn't wait for lunchtime to talk to all 900 students in the school.
Yeah.
So his impact far reached past, the basketball lines and the locker rooms. But getting back to the question, how that came about. Pat Stricker just kind of came to me, and our development director, John Jordan, and the 3 of us kind of just, we went down to the Archdiocese, and the Archdiocese was very much for it.
Good.
Everybody we had talked to was fully in support of it. Bygones kind of became bygones.
That's great. That's awesome.
There was a few, there's a few hoops that we had to jump through.
Okay.
But those hoops that we had to jump through weren't as difficult as we thought they'd end up being.
Right.
That's great. So
It's a cool process.
Oh, I can only imagine, and what an honor. I can only imagine that. Unfortunately, I didn't get there for that night, but I've talked to a few people of the dedication.
Yeah,
and I can
actually against Anderson.
And
the first dedication was during COVID.
Right. But I mean, how was that night? I mean,
it was cool, very emotional.
I bet it had to be. How can you not be?
Right,
a lot of guys crying.
I'm so glad that I got to experience him growing up.
Yeah.
I mean, there were the Bulls of the 90s, but when I was growing up, it was like McNick basketball was the NBA to me.
Yeah.
Right. You always listened to the no, and then the Chicago Bulls came on. Every time I walked into McNick gym with Chris Wilson and Dave Gardner and all these guys, Adam Smith, and you were like, these guys are bigger than Michael Jordan. And I think Durger built that. So that night was emotional. I'm an emotional guy. I love Anderson Township. I love all the people that I've grown up with, the connections that we've had through sports, thanks to our parents keeping us in sports. You see those faces in the crowd, and you can't but get emotional,
get nostalgic, and
and it's so cool. It was an awesome night.
I can't.
And then we got to do it again. So we did it during COVID with a limited crowd. And then we got to do it. We got to blow it out. One over right before Christmas break 2 years ago. So that was really cool too.
Which was kind of fitting with Anderson.
Well,
I got to say something. There's a couple of things I couldn't stand when I was playing against McNick.
Here we go.
I got to bring this up. Okay,
go ahead.
I couldn't stand that stupid rocket that used to blow out smoke. It used to blow smoke out. Do you remember that?
Do you still have that?
I couldn't stand that, and then that stupid cheer. R-O-C-K. Oh, drove me freaking bananas.
I'm not sure if he's bitter or not.
Oh, that's all right. That's the rivalry. That's good. That's the rivalry. That's the rivalry. And just that all happened. It's like, God.
There's plenty of things that drive.
I'm sure.
Drive McNick nuts about Forest Road.
I'm sure. That's just the things that just stuck out. I remember. But so talking about being the AD at McNick, I know there's challenges at every job that whatever school's at, but McNick being that's the Catholic school that it's a lot of money to go to. Talk about some of the challenges that you had when you first got there at McNick.
So I'd say we were as low as enrollment has gotten in a long time, maybe ever. My first year in there, and we had a lot of new faces in administrative and leadership roles that had come in, just coming right before COVID and right out of COVID. And I'd say COVID helped McNick a lot and helped a lot of Catholic schools based off of how the Catholic schools came out of COVID, in a sense of, it was kind of back to normal quicker at private schools or Catholic schools. And we've taken advantage of that. So we were rock bottom. We had 487 kids in the school. And when I graduated with 241 kids. I started with 274 in 2002. So 270 times, we were almost 1,000 kids in 2002. And in 2020,
you were at 487.
Wow. So that's half. We were at half of what the enrollment was. And now we're hovering around 630 students in 3 school years. We're very healthy. We have very good administration and very energetic people in the right places. We are doing things that we need to do we're sandwiched in between 2 great high schools. Right. Turpin and Anderson. And then we have lots of competitors in the Catholic realm. St. X, St. Ursuline, Moeller. We have a lot of kids around Anderson and West Claremont going to Mount Notre Dame. Some kids sneaking over to Covcath. We have a lot of competitors. It fuels me. It's fun. When you think you're at half of what enrollment was when you were there, and you're like, man, if we can get it back going, we can.
I agree.
This is a hotbed area.
Yeah, it is.
We have to find a differentiator, and quite frankly, our differentiator is one, our faith, and the Catholic realm, and Christianity. We're doing a very good job of finding ways to offer that,
right,
for the people who want it. And
need it.
Yes. I mean, people who want it and need it. We have a great theology department. We have a priest on campus all day long. Running a lot of good, spiritual opportunities for our kids. And then we are finding ways to provide opportunities. But I think the biggest thing is we want to compete now. We're not shy about it. We're not in the athletic realm. We want to compete at the highest of levels, or the highest level that we can compete at.
Well, I mean, you look at especially compared to the 80s, when you talk about Stricker and those guys, I mean, look at the facilities.
That's what I was just getting ready to mention. Facilities are amazing.
It's incredible. What's your word, Danny? Phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, no, it truly is. I mean, the football stadium is unbelievable.
It really is.
It's actually funny that you bring that part up. We're hosting grade school games now at a higher clip than we ever have.
Okay.
So all the CYO teams that are coming back, and my friends now are having kids who are coming up in the ponies and the bandits, and we host probably 3 weekends a year or 4 weekends a year of that. We host some other days of GCCYS basketball games. But when they come back and they see, we call it Paradise. When they come back and see Paradise, they're like, Drew, I didn't even know this was back here. And this is graduates of McNick. So we're starting to show off a little bit.
As you should.
Right. I mean, we have what kids need now. We have a strength and conditioning coach as well. We just put in $300,000 to renovate our weight room.
Wow.
It's now an indoor-outdoor facility. We have 2 gyms. We have what we need for our kids to not need to go anywhere else in the city. And it's fun. I mean, it's fun right now. We just hired an awesome strength and conditioning coach within the last year and a half. And he's very much helping our programs
changing the game.
That next step, changing the game. He was just actually nominated as the national, or this National High School Strength and Conditioning Association State and Regional Coach of the Year.
Fantastic.
We're hoping that happens.
That's fantastic.
The results should be coming in within the next couple weeks.
That's
very
awesome.
Cool.
We have what high school kids need, not only to succeed during the 4 years here, but the opportunities that they can have now beyond McNick is better than it's ever been before.
I think the other thing you guys are doing really well is your social media. You're pumping up the kid. You know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff that I see, like after the football games, they do that. That is cool. I mean, that's what people want to see.
They've been doing that though, right?
But
they just promoting.
You don't see. We never. You're seeing it all the time now.
Right. So the story behind that, the nuns used to live in the convent up until 1999, and we obviously didn't have a football field. And the nuns never traveled off campus to go to those games. So you come back from a home game at Anderson. And if you win, you go and knock on the door, and the lights were off in the convent, and you went and knocked on the front door until the nuns woke up. And they came down, they turned on the lights, and they said, "Hey, Rockets, what's the score?" And then they would count, if they scored 47 points, they'd count to 47, and then they'd do
that's pretty cool
song and dance after.
That is so cool.
So they've kept that tradition going, and now the cheerleaders act as the nuns.
That is cool.
Really? It's a
cool
fun tradition. And now that when we have the home games, the entire stadium rushes over to the convent, and it's cool. I tell people
that's a great thing.
I tell McNick guys and gals, alums, that they need to come back and experience a Friday night at McNick.
Well, I'm sure in some respects, some guys going back to again the Stricker, that era, they're probably jealous in some respects. But
I am.
but so humbled and happy. I mean, what a great.
I mean, they built it.
Exactly.
They built
You're
that
right.
foundation.
You're right.
So,
but I mean, what a great thing. What a great time for you to be there, Drew.
Yeah, it's fun.
And the great things that you're doing. You know, and as I said, I mean, no better person
Absolutely.
to be in your position than you. And I'm happy for you, and hopefully, you can ride it out.
Yes, and I'm able to ride it as long as I've been riding it because of my wife.
Well,
that's our next segment. You're good at this. You know the.
Are you looking at this?
Segue, man. You know.
I was letting you feed that answers because I was going to ask you this. Now, how are you writing it out? All right, so talk about your family. Are you married? You got kids?
Married for.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No.
Married for. Since 2017.
Okay.
So we're 6 years now.
Okay.
To Paige, she's awesome. I mean, the amount of freedom that she gives me to be able to do what I love is it makes me emotional.
Hard to describe. Yeah,
it is. It's indescribable.
Yeah.
I mean, every school administrator has to have an awesome spouse.
No question about it.
And I'm pretty sure I hit it out of the park with mine.
Yeah.
You know, I was joking with him on the way here, or on the way in. I have a 90-minute window of like, hey, I'll be home 8-ish, and she doesn't start worrying until 9:30. And then she'll text me like, hey, are you okay? Where are you? And I'm like, yeah, you know, parent caught me. Somebody caught me.
Whatever. Yeah.
An alum came back, and we've been BSing. And, you know, so she's incredible. She takes care of the house. We have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Okay.
Oh wow.
So she's full go right now.
Yeah.
She's full throttle every day. You know, some days I'm at school for 16 to 18 hours. And somehow I come home and the house is clean, and she still works. She's a hairstylist. I mean, that's why you know, she was at work tonight. So she's incredible. She's my best friend. It's fun. Well, you know, I can't wait to get to McNick, but I'm more excited to get home.
Sure. Dude, that's awesome.
Hang out with her and be with her.
Yeah. Well, we've said it before, Danny. I mean, you can't do what you do without having a great wife, and obviously she's.
I'm very blessed.
I think we're very supportive.
Yeah, I think we're in the same boat with him coaching and me doing all the crap I do with the broadcasting and all the stuff, and you know, knowing my bedroom's probably right upstairs, and you know, she's trying to sleep and we're trying to do this, you know.
Although I will say that became kind of educational. So when I was coaching at Anderson with Frank, my oldest daughter, she was 2, 3, 4 years old, whatever, and my wife swears that's where she learned to count, by looking at the scoreboard and counting every time Dad's team scored.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome.
Our 2 little ones, they're ate up with it.
Oh,
they love it.
Yeah,
you know.
And so now you're gonna, as you're in the middle of experiencing what your parents got to experience, even though you're more hands-on at McNick. You know, it's gives you a little more appreciation.
It does. You know. I can't wait. We live off of Bernie, so we're a mile and a half from school.
Perfect.
I want my kids up there as much as they can be up there. I want my wife up there as much as she wants to be up there. And, you know, it's nice to be able to run home for 5 minutes and say hi and go back. And it's nice when when they come up to the football games, when they come up to basketball and volleyball games, it's like
that's beautiful.
You know, it's an extra reward.
A little perk. That's right. I love it.
That is awesome. I didn't tell you this question I was going to fire at you, so this might throw you off a little bit. But I wanted to see if you can give us your favorite memory from high school, and then maybe college, and then if you got a favorite teacher or coach that you had. So let's start off with your favorite. I know it's tough. I should have warned you about that.
Good luck to you, Drew.
I should have warned you about this. So any high school, what's like one that sticks out of your mind for high school?
Like a big game or a big moment you had.
Yeah. So obviously, there's a handful of McNick moments.
Sure.
One of my favorite that I haven't let get me down is my sophomore year. I was the starting second baseman. We were in the regional finals against Columbus Watterson.
Yep.
And I had an 0 for 5 game, ended the game at the plate in extra innings. But we got to extra innings because a ground ball went through my legs.
Okay.
And it would have been a textbook double play. You know, I pulled up on it a little bit.
Okay.
Would have flipped it to Jake Oster. Oster would have thrown him out. So not like a great memory, but a memory that stuck with me. You know, just
wow.
Hey, life ain't that bad.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So that kind of fueled me a little bit throughout high school. My favorite memory was, I guess, just all the friends I made. You know, I had 7 of my best friends from McNick were within like 5.5 miles of where I lived. And we were the best of buddies. And our basketball, our senior year, we started 2-6 and we ended up 13-11. Obviously a tough schedule, you know. McNick always plays tough schedule, blah, blah, blah. You know, we got to get over that. We're like, all right, we're the toughest team on everybody's schedule is eventually what we're going to get to. But, you know, we were undersized, underclassed a little bit sometimes. Yeah. But just how we fought that senior year of basketball and how we turned that around, that was fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It was just you and the boys.
Yeah.
You'd stay in the locker room for an hour and a half after the game.
Sure.
Just BSing. Yep. You know, your parents would be like, where were you? We were just in the locker room.
Yeah. Love it.
For real, we were just in the locker room.
That's right.
We just hung out. Yeah. You know, we were just buds. So that was my favorite memory of high school. College, there were a lot. I mean, my freshman year, we started 3-17. Okay. And we beat Ohio State at Ohio State to get to 20-20.
Wow. Oh, wow.
So we were
3-17. Holy cow.
To 17-3.
You flipped it, yeah.
And I mean, we were beating real teams too.
Yeah.
We would go down south. When I was at Xavier, we were down south for the first 6 weeks of every season. Okay. And sometimes we get our doors blown off, and sometimes we'd show up. We actually got to face David Price my freshman year, so that was cool.
Nice.
Wow.
Personally, my favorite memory there was I was 1 for 3 with a walk off of David Price.
Okay,
that's big.
We were beating him 2-0 until the bottom of the 8th inning, and then we lost 3-2, and we definitely got hosed in order for Vanderbilt to beat us on Friday night. I showed up to Vanderbilt. That was my second start. No, Vanderbilt was, Vanderbilt or Western Carolina was one of my first starts. And I showed up and I was playing third base, and not 20 feet off is their stands. Not 20 feet off the side, not 20 feet off the foul line is their stands. And there's 30 guys, and they show up, and they're like, hey, number 10.
Here we go.
Hey, and I'm like, I'm not old enough for this. I was just on Beachmont Avenue.
That's right.
What are we doing here? And they razzed me for 3 innings, and I went back out in the bottom of the third, and they go, hey, number 10. If you don't tell us your name, we're going to ask Barry and Gretchen. And I was like, oh, that's my mom and dad.
Yes.
Oh, man.
I was like, you got to be kidding me. I was like, these guys are good.
Ooh, so I did some homework.
Yeah, I turned and smiled and nodded, and they kept razzing me Friday night. So I come back Saturday, and they go, hey, Drew, did you like your steak medium rare at Jay Alexander's last night?
Stop it.
And I was like,
wait a minute.
Holy smokes.
What?
I was like, you got to be kidding me. So we went through that whole game, and I was kind of chopping it up with them and having fun with them. And I walk into, so we're staying right behind the stadiums there. I don't know if you've been to Nashville and where Vanderbilt is. Yeah. There's like Buffalo Bills or something is, Mountain Buffalo or something. Okay. Montana Buffalo is one of the restaurants there, and it's really good. And we go in Saturday night, and I'm like, I had this weird feeling.
Those guys were there.
And they're like, Schmitty!
No way!
And it was 5, they were 6'5".
Oh, man.
270, 6'7", 320. And
my God.
I was like, who are you guys? They're like, we weren't stalking you last night. One of us just happened to be at Jay Alexander's.
That is
And they were like, we're not stalking you here. And he's like, but you're lucky because we won't be here tomorrow because it's our spring break. And I was like, thank you. But all the football team sits in that, and it's like
that is cool.
In that third section. Yeah.
No
and
way.
It's their like student section. And they find out who the third basemen are, and
that is
ride them
cool.
the whole weekend.
That is cool. That is so fun. I would have died if they would have said my parents' name. I'd have been like, what?
I mean, they had my grandparents down too. My grandparents were down there with us, and
that is unbelievable.
Another favorite memory. We won the Atlantic 10 championship. So I remember that dog pile. I was under that dog pile on my left arm almost.
Nice.
Jordan Conley's trying to do push-ups to get off my arm, and so that was awesome. We got to do that at Dayton Dragon Stadium, so all of our families were there.
Cool.
That is cool.
We could have been somewhere else in Philadelphia or wherever it was, but all of our families were there. That was fun.
Awesome.
We got to play at Houston and Rice. That was cool. I mean, just my dad, a cool person, another cool personal memory. My dad only missed 4 of my college baseball games.
What?
And we played 60 a year.
Are you kidding?
He was everywhere. Him and my grandpa, both my grandpas would come to our games. I mean, it was...
That is unbelievable.
Yeah,
what dedication.
He missed 4 because he was in the hospital for kidney stones.
Wow.
So
that is awesome.
Yeah.
That is that. See, that's what it's,
That's what's about right
we've
there.
all, I know we've had some great dads too, and that's just, I love
so
hearing
cool.
Yeah. The sports is... I mean, that's why I'm so passionate about it. Like, everybody's like, "Wow, you're a sports nerd." I'm like a friendship, relationship person. The things we got to do with our friends. When I was 15 years old, the Franklin Savings A's, we went to Hawaii, and we had a 6-month-old baby. We had like 95 people that traveled with us.
Wow.
A 6-month-old baby to a 95-year-old.
Oh my gosh, in your group?
And we were in Hawaii for 13 days. We got to, I played in 26 different states playing baseball. And like the friendships and the lifelong.
Can't beat it.
I pick up with guys I haven't seen in 10 years, and we'd all be buddies.
Sure.
I mean, it's,
right now.
Yeah. And that's what I'm trying to do at McNick. Like, hey, it's about winning. Yeah. I tell our kids all the time, the more you, in our families, the more you win, the more memories and more relationships you build.
Totally.
The 6 extra weeks every year of playing deep into a tournament and traveling and doing whatever you do with your buddies is, something intangible.
Yeah, you can't put
it's
a
better
price
than
tag
playing
on it.
10 games. It's better than playing 22 games. It's better than playing 18 games.
Right.
You can't. And fortunately, we've been able to do a lot of that with McNick, and how lucky we've been growing up, being able to do the sports that we've played.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm trying to build.
Yeah,
I think you're doing a great job. I mean, Drew, you're doing an outstanding job. I
There's
mean,
a lot of us doing a lot of good things up there.
I mean, you guys are really doing a great job.
Well, you may have a favorite teacher or coach, but I'm going to probably nominate your dad.
Yeah. My dad, I mean, I actually was coached by my brother in college as well.
Okay.
But, my dad, he instilled it in us.
Yeah. Right. Well, okay, so how about a teacher?
Whew. Stricker was a good teacher. Fun
Is that
teacher.
right?
Yeah.
Nice. Pat.
That's amazing.
We had Pat on.
Yeah, I mean,
not too long ago.
Favorite teacher. Whew. My 7th grade teacher, Miss Hannah. She was awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the first time not that our teacher, but like the first time you connected with a teacher was kind of that age, and just remember her. She was awesome.
That was at GA?
Cool with everyone. Yeah. She was our religion teacher at GA.
Well, she made a marked impression on you.
Yeah. I mean, I've been blessed with a lot of good teachers. Like, it's hard, and now there's still a lot of them that are still left at McNick that some of them did teach me.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Isn't that funny? And you're working alongside of them.
Yep.
That is crazy.
I'm always like, hey, Mrs. Hey,
I was just going to say that. I'm sure you're respecting them. Yeah. You're always going to be Mr.
Susie.
Yeah.
I'm Tom. Quit calling me.
That is awesome. Well, we know that your schedule is just about as busy. You're a lot busier than what we are. are.
Right,
But
absolutely.
to take the time to do this, we really appreciate it. I know we've been trying to connect for a little bit. Means honestly, everybody out there watching, this was we weren't trying to figure out the time, but it was this morning. I actually sent an email and said, "Hey, last minute, sorry, can you do it today?" And just like that, he texted me, and so that's awesome that you were able to fit it in and get it done before the holidays and everything. So
thank you.
We really appreciate it. I know you're super swamped, and tell your wife that we appreciate her too for letting you do this. We really appreciate it.
No, thank you. This is cool. I mean, what you guys do for Anderson Township sports and east side of Cincinnati sports is awesome. I love listening to you guys. I love watching this. I'm just a sports fan. I listen to you guys throughout the playoffs.
That's awesome.
I mean, it's cool what you've kept going with this, and
I appreciate it.
We
appreciate
it. Thank you. Sports fanatic, and
well, we really appreciate it. And I'll tell you what, I'll even, I'd be willing to one time, if you wanted a guest person to come do the rocket cheer, I might even come do the rocket cheer for you.
Gosh, get him to sign right now.
but you got to get that rocket to blow out some. You got to get some.
After the next time we beat the Redskins or the Raptors.
Ooh, yeah. No.
Sorry.
Yeah, that won't happen then with the no.
Honestly, don't be sorry.
Yeah, don't be sorry, because we'd rather have that name back. So we're one of those guys. Yeah, I would love to see those two play each other again. I don't know. Now it's hard now with the schedules like Anderson with the ECC.
Right.
They only have one game that they can play non-conference.
I just mean it could be baseball, basketball.
Oh, that's
softball,
fine. Yeah, we could do.
Yeah.
We'll definitely have to get together. Maybe Steve and I will just show up at an Anderson McNick game or something and just bring back those memories. Maybe if we can sit in the front row or something, or stand up on that. What was that locker room? I remember getting so mad.
Steps?
Yeah, sitting up on the steps and getting so pissed after a JV or freshman game, sitting up there, coming down, sweating. Just some great memories.
We got a ways to go, but we're on the path of hopefully we can renew a lot of the old traditions.
Oh, I love it.
And figure some things out.
Well, it sounds like you're heading there. That's awesome.
We hope to. That's our goal. I mean, if we want to do what we think we can do at McNick, we gotta, start leveling up a little bit.
You're the man
for
on
our way.
I appreciate it. So we really do appreciate you taking the time here. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. So this again podcast is brought to you by Jump. Jim Sturger's 7th book is now up for sale with 6 other Anderson Township buddies. Jim tells a true story of what happened to them at the Van Halen concert. Book is available anywhere books are sold or jimsturger.com. And again, super excited that Jimmy is just doing this for us, and he's pumping the McNick guys to us, which another guy we're going to have here in the next few weeks, maybe Jerry Robinson. I think he's in the Hall of Fame, I believe. Is that correct?
Another legend of McNick.
Yeah, so we're going to have him on, and so we have a couple other guys. So again, thanks for joining us, Drew. We really appreciate it.
Heck yeah, thank you.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. So for Dan Albers and Steve Ellis, you've been watching This Week in Anderson on USBN Sports. We'll catch you guys next time.